Sometimes words just don't do it justice. Welcome to Walking Through the Word for today, and we are now in John chapter 19, and we are going to start this chapter seeing Jesus get beaten and tortured. And I don't know that we can get the full grasp of just how bad this really was. There have been, when you look at John, you see that he just simply uses a word. He says, had him flogged. Now, for us, that doesn't really mean a whole lot. We think maybe about 10 lashes that sailors would do, or, something along those lines. But what Jesus experienced was significantly worse. If you've ever seen the movie The Passion of the Christ, I think it's probably more akin to that aspect of it. Floggings by Roman soldiers killed people. They ended up dying because of the flogging, because unlike some of the other groups, Jews included, who had some kind of rule for flogging, the Jews had, for example, the standard of 39 lashes. The Roman soldiers had nothing like this. So when Jesus takes him and hands him over to the soldiers, he's basically telling them to do as you will. Romans were known for flogging people for no reason whatsoever, just because they disturbed the peace. And Pilate here, as we read on, was doing this because he was hoping to placate the religious leaders so that he wouldn't have to kill Jesus. Because, no matter what Pilate was thinking, he didn't want to necessarily kill an innocent man. So he goes and he has him flogged. Now, the floggings of the Roman soldiers often would involve really kind of what we would describe as a cat o' nine tails type item. Leather whips, multiple leather whips that often would be filled with pieces of debris and shards of things and sharp stones and such to inflict the maximum amount of pain, where it would dig into the flesh as it ripped through. And so Jesus is being shamed in horrible ways, but it's not enough to be shamed and physically tortured. Now these men go and mock him. In verse 2 of chapter 19, the soldiers twisted together a crown of thorns and put it on his head. And they clothed him in a purple robe and went up to him again and again, saying mockingly, "Hail! Hail, King of the Jews!" And then they would slap his face. See, it wasn't enough that Jesus was tortured and beaten, already to the point where his back was very possibly akin to, forgive the graphic nature, akin to hamburger meat. Jesus was then humiliated. They took the conversation that the soldiers took the conversations that they heard, and they used it to mock him. He was already stripped naked, and so they put this purple robe on him. Imagine having, if you've ever been just sunburned, you know that putting clothing on hurts. Imagine having your back as Jesus's was. And then not only that, but the crown of thorns. This is not just some little teeny tiny goat head of thorns we're talking about. We're talking about incredibly long thorns that would have come from local branches that put onto his head and placed on his head would have caused more incredible amounts of pain. So Jesus is enduring all sorts of suffering and agony at this time. And then they come up and they mock him again. "Hail, King of the Jews!" Ironically, not realizing who it is that they're actually mocking. And they slap him in the face. Other parts of the Gospels say they slapped him in the face and said, "Who struck you now, King?" These men have no regard for not only Jesus, but for human life. These soldiers have no regard whatsoever for the dignity of the person. All they are interested in is inflicting the most amount of pain, agony, and torture that they can. And this is only the beginning of what Jesus endures for you and for me. Remember, Jesus is in this situation because he knows what he must do. Tomorrow, we'll talk a little bit more about Pilate, and we'll look at an interaction that Jesus and Pilate have one last time before he's sent off to crucifixion.